Dramatic story, The Spark in the Dark. Part 1. The beginning. Emma stopped in front of the sink, both hands gripping the edge, her gaze following the steady drops of water from the leaking faucet. The drip drip of the water filled the air, blending into the suffocating silence. The house on the suburban street had long been devoid of laughter, conversation, and close moments between Emma and Chris. Chris had been away on business for nearly 2 weeks. Long business trips like this had become a regular occurrence. Emma had gotten used to receiving a short email or a quick call letting her know that he would be away again. She never objected. In fact, she had grown accustomed to his absence. Each evening passed in a predictable, dull routine. Emma ate dinner alone, watched an old movie on TV, then drifted into thoughtless musings until sleep overtook her. Tonight felt different. She truly felt suffocated. Her face stiffened, as though she was holding on to emotions too large to process. "I can't keep going like this," Emma whispered to herself. She reached for her phone. On the other end was Alex, her best friend since high school. "Alex, the sink's faucet is leaking." "I don't know what to do," Emma said, her voice soft as though sharing something heavy. "You're lucky. I know someone. Trust me, he's the best I've ever met." "I'll call him over right now," Alex said. Emma tried to push back. "I could call Chris and ask him to arrange a plumber." "Do you really think Chris has the time to fix something this simple?" "Let me handle it. Trust me." Alex's tone was decisive, shutting down all of Emma's objections. Emma sighed. "Let's see what happens." About an hour later, as Emma was still flipping through old movies on TV, a knock on the door broke the silence. Emma jumped. When she went to open the door, a tall man stood there. "Hello, I'm Noah. Alex said you needed help with the sink." His voice had a confident and warm undertone, as though it filled the entire space. Emma didn't speak right away. She was studying the stranger, broad shoulders, confident demeanor, and a calm face. "Yes, thank you for coming," she said, suddenly feeling a rush of emotions. Noah smiled lightly and entered the house. As he followed Emma to the kitchen, the faint scent of pine from his toolkit filled the air. He quickly assessed the faucet, his dark eyes lighting up with focus. Emma stood a few steps away, unsure why she felt short of breath. Maybe it was the small space, or maybe it was Noah's presence. She tried not to let her eyes wander too much, but his ease and natural movements made it impossible not to notice. "This faucet's been leaking for a while," Noah said, his voice calm and steady. Breaking the silence, "I'll take it apart and check." Emma nodded. Still unsure what to say, she leaned lightly against the counter, her eyes following Noah's strong hands as he unscrewed the bolts. Every move was precise and careful, as though he had done this thousands of times before. When he crouched to check under the sink, Emma realized she was watching him intently. She quickly looked away, trying to occupy herself by rearranging a few items on the counter. But the strange feeling didn't disappear. An odd warmth filled the space, as though Noah's presence was soothing the loneliness she hadn't admitted. "Noah," she spoke softly, "how long have you been doing this?" Noah looked up, his eyes soft with friendliness. "Quite a while. I enjoy it. Sometimes, just fixing something broken is enough to make people feel at ease again." Emma smiled lightly, but inside, she felt a pang of pain. She wasn't sure if Noah realized how his words seemed to touch a deep place within her. "I think so," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady, but her eyes betrayed her, showing an emotion she couldn't hide. Part 2. A fateful meeting. Noah continued working with great focus, while Emma silently observed from a distance. The small kitchen seemed to come alive under his presence, a strange warmth filling every corner. When Noah tightened the wrench and completed the repair, he stood up and looked at Emma. "All done," he said, his eyes shining with confidence. "The faucet should work fine now, but if there are any more issues, don't hesitate to call me." Emma smiled, feeling relieved, also a bit embarrassed. "Thank you. It's really nice to have someone knowledgeable come to help." Noah nodded and packed up his tools into the cloth bag. "No problem. I enjoy these kinds of jobs, sometimes. Just fixing something simple brings a sense of satisfaction. Emma felt a weight lift from her, but she couldn't ignore the lingering awkwardness. She tried to maintain a polite distance. But when Noah prepared to leave, she unexpectedly spoke up. "Do you drink coffee?" "I just brewed a pot, if you're not in a hurry." Noah seemed surprised, but quickly nodded. "Thanks. A cup of coffee sounds great." They sat at the kitchen table, where the dim light from the overhead lamp created a cozy atmosphere. Emma poured the coffee, and for the first few minutes, they simply sat in silence, letting the space and the aroma of the coffee soothe the initial awkwardness. "Do you live nearby?" Emma asked, breaking the silence. Noah nodded. "About 15 minutes by car. I like this area. It's quiet and has a sense of intimacy." Emma smiled. "Yes, but sometimes this quiet can feel stifling." Noah looked at her, his gaze seeming to understand more than any explanation could. "I think I understand that feeling. Sometimes quiet isn't peace, but loneliness." His words made Emma pause, as though he had just voiced something she had felt for a long time. They continued talking about simple things like work, life, little anecdotes about hobbies and habits. Each conversation felt like peeling away layers, revealing an increasingly clear connection between them. Time passed faster than Emma realized. When she glanced at the clock, it was already late. Noah stood up, politely declining her offer to stay longer. "I have to go, but thank you for the coffee and the conversation." It was truly pleasant. Emma escorted him to the door, and when it closed behind Noah, she felt an indescribable emptiness. But for the first time in months, that emptiness wasn't loneliness, it was hope. Part 3. A new beginning. The next day, Emma woke up with a strange feeling. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, lighting up her small, but cozy room. She got out of bed, feeling as if energy had returned to her. The sink had been fixed. And that wasn't just a physical improvement, it symbolized something bigger in her life. While sipping her morning coffee, she received a message from Noah. "Good morning. Hope your day is off to a good start. If you need anything else, feel free to message me." Emma read the message, unable to stop a small smile from forming. She didn't reply immediately, instead putting the cup down and thinking, what did a stranger make her feel something Chris, her husband, hadn't given her in a long time? Warmth, understanding, and the feeling of being cared for. She spent the whole morning reflecting. Was this just a fleeting feeling, or was it a sign that she needed to change something in her life? Lately, Emma had been so accustomed to loneliness, but now, she was beginning to realize she deserved more than that. In the afternoon, as she was tidying up around the house, the doorbell rang. Emma opened the door in surprise to find Noah standing there, holding a small basket of bread and flowers. "I passed by a bakery and thought you might like this," he said, his gaze gentle. Part 4. The end. And the lesson. Emma sat quietly in the living room, her hands twisting the cup of cold tea. Everything in the house was so silent that she could clearly hear the ticking of the clock. Her mind was a storm, chaotic and disturbed. It had been a week since Chris left, leaving her to wrestle with thoughts about her marriage. And now, Noah, the strange yet familiar man, had appeared again. Noah sat across from her, his face no longer carrying the ease it had during their first meeting. His eyes were sharp but full of patience and concern. He looked at Emma, waiting for her to say something, but when he noticed that she was still trapped in her own thoughts, he spoke. "Emma, I don't want to be a reason for you to lose yourself." His voice was warm but firm. "You need to understand what you really want in life." Noah's words rang like a bell inside Emma. She realized that, all this time, she had been stuck in a cycle of dissatisfaction and confusion. She didn't know what she wanted or needed, and that had kept her trapped in a lackluster marriage. With ambiguous feelings toward another man, Emma took a deep breath, put the cup down, and began to share her thoughts with Noah. She spoke about her years with Chris, the loneliness even when they were together, and the inner struggle she had felt when realizing her feelings for him had faded. She also spoke of the fear of facing the truth that she didn't know what she needed to be happy. Noah listened quietly, not interrupting. He knew this wasn't the time for advice or judgment. When Emma finished, he spoke gently. Happiness is never something that others can give you. It starts from within. If you don't find joy in your own life, no matter who you're with, you'll always feel empty. Noah's words made Emma reflect. She realized that she had been seeking validation and love from those around her instead of building a life she loved for herself. She had always thought that Chris, or anyone else, had to be the one to bring her happiness, but now she understood that was a mistake. In the following days, Emma began to look at her life differently. She spent time reflecting on what had happened and what was truly important to her. She read books on psychology, joined online marriage seminars, and tried new activities she had never dared before, like painting and yoga classes. She also decided to meet with Chris for an honest conversation. It was a rainy evening when Emma invited Chris over for dinner. At first, the atmosphere was awkward and tense, but Emma was ready to face whatever came her way. During dinner, she shared her true feelings with Chris. She admitted she had felt lonely and neglected for many years, and that had led her to seek comfort from someone else. But she also made it clear that she didn't blame Chris entirely. "I realized I relied too much on you to find happiness," Emma said, her voice trembling. "But happiness is something I need to create for myself. If we want to save this marriage, we both need to change." Chris was silent for a moment, then nodded. "I've made mistakes too," he said. "I thought providing financially was enough, but I forgot that you need a partner, not just a provider." That conversation didn't solve everything immediately, but it opened a door for them to start new. They decided to attend marriage counseling together, learning better communication and spending more time with each other. As for Noah, he quietly left Emma's life after realizing his presence might complicate things further. Before leaving, he left Emma a short letter with a few lines. "Live true to yourself. Don't let the light inside you be forgotten." That letter became Emma's source of motivation to continue her journey of self-discovery and revitalize her marriage. She understood that love was not just a feeling, but a commitment, effort, and understanding. And above all, happiness didn't come from relying on others, it came from how she treated herself and built her own life. Sharing real life. Marriage needs communication. Sometimes, we're so busy with responsibilities that we forget the most important thing: sharing our true feelings with our partner. In the busy days of life, between work pressure, children, and family, it's easy to neglect communicating with the ones we love. How many times have you come home, faced your partner, but didn't know where to begin a conversation? Sharing your true feelings may seem simple, but many couples avoid it. Why? Because of the fear of rejection, misunderstanding, or simply exhaustion. However, remember that communication is the key to a lasting relationship. Start with the smallest questions. What did you go through today? What's on your mind? These small questions gradually uncover deeper aspects of the person you're with. Tip: have you ever thought that silence can be a form of communication too? Sometimes, just sitting next to each other in silence helps you understand each other. Waiting for loneliness to take control. The feeling of loneliness isn't just a mental state, it can be a major cause of problems in marriage. When someone begins to feel lonely within their own family, they tend to seek relationships outside to fill that void. But instead of looking for temporary replacements, why not take simple steps like sitting down with your partner to share true feelings, engaging in joint activities like walking, cooking, watching movies, or just reading together, seeking psychological support if necessary. Happiness is a matter of choice. Happiness isn't a surprise that happens to us, it needs to be chosen every day in marriage. Prioritizing your own happiness is essential to maintaining a strong relationship. Self-care. Ask yourself, when was the last time you did something just for your own joy? Sincerity in communication. Honesty is key. Say what you think without judgment. Experiencing together. trying new activities together, like traveling, trying new foods, or taking a class together. Do you think long-term silence in a marriage indicates a fractured relationship? Or is it just a way to heal that no one dares admit? And do you think the woman is the biggest wrongdoer and deserves to be punished?